welcome to the FE Bar. We have a very special show tonight as joining myself, Jack Jordan Maynor, and Jack Pickering is Formula E's Chief Championship Officer, Alberto Longo. Firstly, we have to start off with a bit of a terrible story, obviously, the terrible tragedy that has happened in Valencia. Obviously, severe flash floods, which has killed 72 people so far. So everyone here at Formula E Zone sends their thoughts and prayers to everyone affected by the disaster. Alberto, firstly, thank you so much for joining us on today's show, and I wish it was at happier times.
Yeah, thank you everyone for inviting me, for being there. Always, you guys are great fans of Formula E, and we really feel you from the distance every time that we go racing. But yeah, unfortunately, we had very bad news last night, and during all day today, definitely Valencia, and the meteorological situation that is happening there has been, I would call it a disaster. We are to the point that we consider the test like a secondary matter today, obviously, and we are trying to help with all the resources that Formula E has in place in order to have even humanitarian purposes. Definitely, we are here to help, and it's very important that we can tell that to our fans that Valencia needs us, and obviously we are here to help.
Yeah, obviously, I know, as you said quite rightly there, the testing is secondary on everybody's mind, but we are supposed to be testing in Valencia in 5 days' time. What is the update? What update can you bring us and fans and just everyone, teams as well, pretty much, of what is the latest news going into around pre-season testing?
We're actively working, for the test to happen, but the most important thing is what we are working with the local authorities. I have a meeting every hour with them actually, and to define again what are their needs, and definitely if they want to go ahead with the test, we will be there to support. If they prefer not to do the test, then obviously we will move the test elsewhere, and definitely this is in our mind. Again, the top priority today is having in mind all these people who has lost their beloved ones, and trying to get that city, that region to normality as soon as possible.
Indeed, Pico.
Yeah, so yeah, and I completely echo everything that's been said so far. Fingers crossed we actually we can get to Valencia next week and see some running. Alberto, I wanted to start at the start. Really, you were there, right? You were there at season 1. I wanted to ask about how series came about, your involvement, and also moments throughout that year. So, like Miami, which was famously where everyone sort of went away going, not sure if we're going to be back.
Yeah, I'm the founder of Formula E together with Alejandro Agag, obviously. We did had this kind of crazy idea back 13, 14 years ago. Definitely, it has been, as you can imagine, up and downs. As we were a startup, not anymore. Because we have great partners backing us up, but definitely it has been, a journey to get to this point, a point in which, we have raced in more than 133 races in more than 33 iconic cities in the world. I don't know, 86, I think it is, drivers that has been joining different teams in Formula E, and definitely from season 1 to today, we're being broadcasted in more than 192 territories in the world. This year, we had a record-breaking audience of 35% cumulative audience growth, which is absolutely amazing, all the way up to 491 million. Definitely, someone would have talked to me 10, 12 years ago and would have told me that we were going to be this successful in such a short time. I would have thought that they were a little bit crazy. Why not to say? And Miami is obviously was part of the beginning of Formula E, and it was actually one of the best races that we have ever done there. It's true that we raced right at the heart of the city in Biscayne Boulevard and in the American Airlines Arena, and definitely that was a massive event. I think we host more than 35,000 people back then. And now we're going to the new home, to Homestead, which is absolutely an incredible venue with heritage of motorsport. NASCAR keep on racing there. Indy has raced there for 10, 15 years as well. So there is a lot of fans in the US, in Florida, in Miami, and hopefully they will become also fans of Formula E as soon as we get there.
Yeah, how close? Because there was a lot of reports that it was close to the end for Formula E after that Miami race. How true are they, or what was the situation after Miami? Like, I think it's been 10 years. I feel like we can lift the can off that a little bit.
It's true. It's actually true. But no, not the end. I mean, it was the end probably a little bit before Miami. Miami was our kind of our last race. If we wouldn't have had an amazing partner like Liberty, jumping into the championship, and definitely a big thanks to them, because they came to Miami. They liked what they saw actually, and then they decided to invest in our company heavily. And support heavily Formula E, and that has happened since then. So without Liberty, obviously, we wouldn't be here, and probably without Miami either, because Miami was the convincing tool that we use in order to get Liberty on board.
That's amazing. So, just for fans, if you click !Zoom in the YouTube chat, it will bring up the Zoom link, and then you can be transferred. You'll get this link, and then you can ask your question to Alberto. So, I know quite a few people have already done that. So, the last question I have before we start taking some fans is obviously we've had very, think about street tracks that we've had. We've had like really tight ones, like in Battersea in London. Obviously, the XL's tight. Tokyo is quite a tight one, and obviously these Formula E cars are getting much faster. What do you, as someone who puts together the championship and has a big involvement in that, where do you see Formula E going? I know we tried out Misano in terms of, and more circuit tracks like Shanghai. Is that the way forward? Is that where Formula E might be heading? Or is it a more F1 style street track like a Baku or a Singapore or a Jeddah? I know we're racing in Jeddah, but like a track like that as a street circuit that could be the way Formula E operates in the future?
Well, that's a very good question. And actually, I have a very straight answer. We remain absolutely loyal to our DNA, meaning we like to race in the heart of the biggest cities of the world. And this is where we're going to be racing for the future as well. What you just said, is the challenge that we're facing. And it's a very good challenge to have. Our cars are getting quicker and faster, and they go for longer. And that means that eventually we're going to be needing to adapt the venues that we use in order to host a Formula E event. But you can see the likes of today of Berlin in Tempelhof, the Sambódromo in Sao Paulo, the Excel in London. Those are venues which are in the city center, but actually they allow us to build a track which is ad hoc to the technology of our cars, to showcase the technology that our cars have. And showcase that speed, and definitely that is the solution for the medium and long term of Formula E. Basically, keep being in the city centers, but at the same time looking for amazing venues that allow us to modify the track as the car grows, as the car it's better technologically speaking. Sorry.
No, that's perfect. Right, should we get one of our first fans?
Right, let's. Right, I'd quite like to get Saz in first, because Saz, for Alberto who doesn't know, but for most people who do watch this, you will know that Saz is in Valencia, and so Saz, welcome back to the FE bar. Firstly, how are you? How are you holding out at the moment?
Well, I'm luckier than a lot of people, so taking the good. But yeah, it's all the towns nearby are a mess, and my friends have been sending me photos from their towns of cars piled up and the roads are destroyed. Like near my house, there is the old riverbed that fortunately the river got diverted, which has prevented a lot of damage. But today it looks like a full river again. I've lived here 4 years and I've never seen it so full.
Wow.
It's normally grass and a path.
Yeah. I know it's incredibly sad what's happening, Saz. But what is your question for Alberto?
Okay, my question for Alberto is how the idea's been talked about for a while, but how feasible is the idea of having a backup race for situations like Hyderabad and the May the 8th race? Like, is it possible?
Sas, very good to meet you. Is it possible? Yeah, definitely. Why not? What I can say is that definitely Formula E is at a level of maturity today that we don't allow ourselves to fail. And I'm saying this because I believe that changing the calendar or adding a race when there is not enough time to be ready, when there is not enough time to attract enough fans to our track, when there is not enough time, to basically put the show that we want to put. I think we are mature enough now today to say, okay, guys, let's not do it, and let's do it whenever we're ready, whenever we have enough time to plan ahead and for the people to prepare to such an spectacle at Formula E. So definitely for me, it's more a matter of in the past, we had to do it. Today, we don't need to do it.
Fantastic. So do you know which circuits you would consider for backup plans or cities?
I mean, there are plenty of circuits that are hoping to host a Formula event. The one in Punta del Este, the one in Marrakesh, any permanent track in Europe as well.
Marrakesh.
Marrakesh, yes. So definitely there is a big number of urban tracks and also permanent tracks that will love to host a Formula event. But we cannot forget how challenging is to keep and remain loyal to our DNA of racing in the streets, racing in venues inside the city. And that means that we need a lot of preparation in order to make it right.
Yeah,
so do you think...
Sorry. Go Saz.
Go Saz. Last one.
So then, do you think for season 12 there will be a backup venue in case the same thing happens? Because it's a lot of seasons now where we've had big gaps in the calendar.
Yeah, what you call a backup venue, I call it a plan B. So I don't like the word backup because that will mean that actually we don't get the races that we wanted to be at. In my humble opinion, we have always have a plan A and a plan B for almost not every race, but some of the races. In the case of that gap that you're talking about, the March 8th gap, it's we had a plan A, a plan B, and actually a plan C, which is the one that is going to happen, and it's not an official race, and obviously too early to announce anything here, but you will be seeing some news coming on that particular weekend, which is going to be, you are all going to be delighted with, for sure.
Nice. What I wanted to just add before we get the next person in, just to build on that, obviously, when the race fell through for the March 8th slot, how much time was there between that? Was it like there was no way we could arrange anything, or did you try with that plan B option, but it just didn't work out?
As I mentioned, we had a plan A, and the plan B was also in place, and for very different reasons. But it looks like we're talking about, but. Because I cannot mention any name, obviously.
Yes, of course. Yeah, we understand.
But the plan B will most likely be next season.
Okay.
In the calendar, and the plan A as well. Okay. So now both plan A and plan B will become hopefully plan A for season 12.
Splendid. Thank you so much.
Exciting.
Saz, thank you so much for your calls. Some great questions.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, Alberto.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Right, let's get Will. I always forget that it's slightly different on Zoom compared to Discord. Hopefully,
there's always a 1 or 2 second delay.
Will should be coming in now. Will, can you hear us?
Hiya. Yeah, I can hear you.
Hi,
can you hear
fantastic. Me? Yes, we can.
Perfect.
Go for
Welcome
it.
to the FE Bar. What's your question for Alberto?
but bear me 1 second. Why don't I get to see them?
So good
What's
question.
happening here?
This is a great question. Unfortunately, the cameras won't allow it.
Okay, got it.
The cameras won't
For
allow
us
it.
to stay on
For us to
air
stay in
and
in
they
the
can
camera
see
frame,
us, we can't see them.
Effectively, Alberto, it's like a radio show without being on the radio.
Clear now.
Yeah.
Go on, Will.
Alberto is the handsome one, so it's good that he's up there.
That's so nice of you, but you're a good liar.
No, not at all. So thank you so much for coming on and taking some of our questions. Mine is, do you foresee Formula E elongating the races to say an hour 15, hour 30, especially with a tack charge potentially providing more power?
Again, very good question, Will. And it comes with my response will come probably with a second question. Do we want that? Do we believe that is exactly what the fans want? I think having a more condensed race has been a very successful product. Up to now. Again, look at the growth that we have had in the last 10 years. Definitely, we look every single year on how to probably extend the race a little bit. 1 hour and 15, if you take into consideration that you have then another 15 to 20 minutes of interviews, podium ceremony, pre-programming, post-programming, you're talking about 3 hours live program on TV. And that is most likely, let me put it this way, in a very polite way, a little bit boring. I think if we have such an extensive program on TV, and obviously it will be also more challenging to get in the main broadcasters that we do worldwide if we aim to be 2.5 to 3 hours of live coverage. So first is the fan for us, and the most important thing, if you guys believe that we need to do longer races, we will certainly do it, that's for sure. But I strongly believe that this is not the general opinion. They will like to keep on watching condensed races with a lot of overtaking, a lot of show, a lot of spectacle, and definitely with a lot more power. We cannot forget that the battery and the energy that we have storage on that battery is the one that we have. So we can either choose to do longer races or cars that go quicker. That is for today. Probably in 3 to 5 years' time, we can do both. Have very long races and at maximum speed.
Oh, that's very interesting. So you think maybe there would be a blend of races?
It could be. Again, we will. We do a survey. Almost after every single race, we do a bigger survey after every single season, and we follow. We're here for the fans, so we follow what you tell us. And definitely we try to accommodate. The vast majority opinion, which is what drive, the success of Formula E, being followed by you guys, basically.
Just to follow up on that one, could we see potentially soon Formula E changing the format? Because originally, obviously the plan was to be a one-day format, but now we're seeing more and more double headers coming in. Does the format of how it works get looked at?
The format, Jack, we do it on a yearly basis as well. We love to say, and the teams and manufacturers kills me for it, but that we want to make difficult and challenging the life of the engineers of our cars, of those teams, and this is why we always come up with ideas, that keep on challenging those bright minds, that are behind the pit wall, in every single team. And we were born with that DNA, and we will probably die with the same one. Definitely, Formula E is to innovate, is to be doing new things that has never been done in Formula cars before, and hence why every single year we will try to bring something new, exciting, that change a little bit the format, because obviously we believe that we have a good product to be improved. Obviously, we can always improve it, but we have a good product that the people actually loves.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Will, for coming on the FE Bar and asking your question. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Will.
Thank you, guys. Cheers.
I've got a couple of questions here from people who couldn't make it, who messaged, and I'm going to combine these two questions. There's a question from Iris and a question from Adam. They're both related to American races. Iris wanted to find out why was Homestead Miami chosen over maybe a shortened F1 layout of the Miami circuit, and then Adam has piped up with what other cities in America would you love for FE to race in?
Let me start with the second one.
Yeah.
I mean, we have raced already in New York. We raced in Portland as well, which was absolutely amazing, that experience, and see that amount of fans coming to the track. We have raced in Miami previously, and definitely I think what we're missing is the West Coast, and definitely LA, San Francisco, Phoenix. I mean, all that area of the States, I think will be an amazing opportunity for us to be racing there. Miami, why have we changed to Miami Homestead? Because we checked every single option that we had, and definitely we believed that it was better to be racing in Homestead in year one. Even though we keep on having conversations with not only HR, Hard Rock Cafe Stadium, but with some other potential venues in Miami as well for the future. But for this year, we wanted to be back in Miami, and that was basically the best gate possible for us to be back there.
Perfect. I can hear Nikki. I think it's Nikki.
Yes, Nikki's in.
Hello, Nikki. Welcome to the FE Bar. What is your question for Alberto?
How do you feel Formula E changed in the last 10 years, and what do you think its future will hold?
Hi, Nikki. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Yourself?
Very good, very good. Listen, the last 10 years for me has been a story of. I mean, again, I don't want to sound any other way than humble, but for me, it has been a very big story of success, creating a brand from scratch. Today is easy to be following the electromobility movement. The real thing is that 10, 12 years ago, and coming from the motorsport world, there was a lot of people making fun of us, and saying that we will never do the first race, and look where we are only 10 years after. We are well positioned on the fourth biggest motorsport in the world, only after Formula One, MotoGP, World Rally Championship, and then us very, very close to World Rally Championships in terms of fans and viewership. And that is only in 10 years.
Wow.
Most of all the other championships, like, I don't know, WEC, Indy, NASCAR, they all have like 75 to 100 years, so definitely we're very proud of what we have done, but also very conscious and very responsible, because there is a lot more to do, and by that, I can tell you that obviously our target when we were born was to be the reference in motorsport, and that remains intact. So hopefully in years to come, we will become certainly that, the reference in motorsport.
Yep.
Perfect. Thank you so much,
Awesome.
Nikki.
Cheers, Nikki.
Thank you, fellas. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
So
Right,
we're going to get one more caller in, but before we do that, I've just got a couple of questions, because I think we'll end with Natalie. So while we grab Natalie, and I just think it'd be really good to get just a couple of updates on some cities that have been on the calendar, that are no longer on the calendar, that might still happen, and I know are fan favourites, such as Cape Town. Cape Town was an amazing race. Is there any updates on that? A lot of Darshan, who's from India, he wanted to find out what's the situation going on. Obviously, we didn't do Hyderabad and so forth. So could you just give us a brief update on races like Cape Town and Hyderabad, and are they potentially going to come back, or are we looking for different locations in those countries?
I mean, definitely India is going to come back to Formula E. I mean, we have very clear roadmap and a strategic roadmap in terms of calendar. we want to be racing in 20. We want to be doing 24 races by the end of Gen 4. That means that we will most likely do in between 16 and 18 venues around the world. Within those, we have also very clear that we want to be back in India, that we want to have at least 2 races in the US and at least 2 races in China, which are probably the 2 only countries in the world that we will allow ourselves to do 2 races in each market. So again, it's a very strategic thinking. We haven't changed that strategy since the beginning. That strategy holds, the 11, 12 markets that we consider as a top priority markets for Formula E, for the growth of the sport. And those key markets are obviously thought together with everyone in the ecosystem, meaning the teams, the manufacturers, and also the global partners of Formula E. We all sit together, 3-4 times a year, and we define how the championship is going to look calendar-wise. So, yeah, definitely we want to be back in India. Places like Cape Town, we keep on having very good discussions with them, but it's very challenging to do a race almost anywhere in the world. And Cape Town obviously is one of these places where it's challenging, but it was, as you said, an amazing event, and it was really a pleasure to do that race, and everyone in the ecosystem loves it.
Perfect. Natalie, I believe you're with us.
I should be.
Good, perfect.
Yep,
Thank you so much.
Go
Welcome
ahead.
to the FE Bar. What is your question for Alberto?
Hi, Natalie.
Evening, Alberto.
Hi.
So my question to you is, how much logistically goes into preparing and delivering the Formula E calendar?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
How much logistically goes into preparing and delivering the Formula E calendar in the off season, especially?
Yeah, the off season. The people keep on thinking that we are on holidays in the off season, and it's actually it's actually the opposite. Off season for us is when during the season you have no time, almost no time to think, no time to get ready for the following season. So for me, actually the September to December for me and for my team, I run basically all the operations. I run the calendar, the relationship with the teams and with the manufacturers. So definitely, all that happened more than ever from September to December. I basically traveled to not only every location that we have announced for the following season, in this case for season 11, but from September to December, I have been in actually 14 different locations, looking already for the calendar of season 12. And this is how much in advance we need to work, and to prepare. So definitely massive logistics, and I have an amazing team, for now 226 people actually in Formula E. But we hire a lot of people locally as well to help us deliver in all those races. But yeah, all the planning and the strategic thinking come normally from August to December.
Lovely.
Perfect, and perfect timing as well. Natalie, thank you so much for coming on the FE Bar.
Right, I'll see you lads later.
See you later.
Thank you, Natalie.
Adios.
Adios.
Alberto, it's been an absolute privilege to
Same
have
here.
you on, and I hope you've enjoyed it, interacting with the fans. I think that's the most important thing. I think that's the beauty of this show, is that you get to hear from the fans directly. So I really hope you enjoyed it, and I thank you so much again for coming on and giving us your time.
I actually loved it, and here my invitation to all these fans, to come to our races, and if they do it through you, we can easily get them a paddock pass or something to go and see the garages. We love our fans, those fans that has been committed with Formula E since day one. So it will be an absolute pleasure to host you guys personally there, or at least have someone also from our team to be explaining you around. Again, feel free to check with the 2 Jacks, and they will be the the tool in which you will get a proper pass, to get to Formula.
I don't think we have the authority for that, Alberto. If I'm completely honest.
I do have it. Don't worry.
Yeah,
I know
amazing.
you do. We don't. We really don't.
Honestly, that means a lot to us.
Yeah,
it means a lot to us. So we're going to take a quick break now, and we'll let Alberto go, and then we'll be back on the other side in a couple of minutes.
Perfect. Thank you, everyone.
Okay. Oh no, I knew that would happen. Because
What?
Jack, your camera is stuck in thingamabob. I will change that in 2 seconds.
We're live, aren't we?
Yeah, of course we are. But these are just the little.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the FE bar. We've just had Alberto Longo. Jack's sorting out some editing stuff, so
There we go. You're back.
There we go.
You're back. Yeah, just flicking from one camera to another. Is always a bit challenging coming back from one area. We're back on Discord, by the way, so if you want to come talk to us, !Discord. If you haven't joined us, if you haven't given it a like and you haven't subscribed to the channel and you're new, what a chat, by the way. We've got lots and lots to talk about from it, which I think is really interesting. A good couple of little exclusives there for Formula Reason. But what else are we going to talk about between now and 8 p.m. when this show ends? I'll tell you what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about who is going to race at Kiro race.
Well, we should know. Well, we believe one of them's.
Well, because we are technically 5 days away. So if we're 5 days away from testing. It hasn't been announced. They've actually announced their female test driver before they've announced their actual.
Back.
Yeah,
Ed Hunter's having a field day
before they've announced their actual drivers. So that is a talking point that we will discuss. Apart from that, there isn't massive amount to talk about. Apart from what was said in that Alberto interview. And thank you so much for all of you coming on. The show doesn't work. It doesn't work without you guys coming on. And we knew it was a short. Bam, 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 bam.
Well, and, thank you.
Yeah, I knew it was a real short segment and to try and get things in, but it's the when we have Jeff Dodds, I think it's pretty much the same situation as well. So
I think Jeff stuck around for an extra half hour.
Yeah, he did stick around for an extra half hour, but we kept that 2 time. We started 5 minutes late. I double checked. I said, "You okay staying for 7:05 to make up for it?" He was like, "Yeah, cool, no probs." And we did it. We kept it to 7:05. So well done, everybody, and thank you so much for doing that. And I hope you all enjoyed it. And I think we got some amazing ideas that came from it. And I think the thing that came from me, one is obviously the calendar, and they have been talking to tons of people. We'll start with Miami, which I thought was really that. So the F1 track was considered. It was considered, and this Miami thing isn't a one and done thing. This is a long-term plan. So they obviously.
This is going back to your sexy cities.
Yes, it is.
Like you've been peddling for years now.
Yes.
And so back in Miami, that is one that I'm sure Alberto has ringed around multiple times on a bit of paper, so that the papers are actually starting to shred. And so, to be back there is phenomenal.
So clearly, Miami, this season's Miami race is clearly, it's a stepping stone track, Homestead. So Homestead is a stepping stone for Formula E to then eventually race on the same track at Hard Rock Stadium as F1 when their cars are ready
there are going to be multiple different layouts of the Miami circuit, the Miami Formula One circuit, coming from 2025. So it makes sense that Formula E could use a truncated version of the Miami Hard Rock Stadium F1 track.
So there's options there, which I thought was.
I think that'd be a absolute 100%.
Brilliant. 24 races in Gen 4, so we're struggling to get 17. But they don't seem. But I like the leadership. I really like the leadership. He's not panic. They didn't panic. They're like, you know what? We'll take the 2-month gap. Let's not chuck something in there.
Yeah, but at the same time, I'm going. You could have done.
But obviously, they didn't feel like it was quite ready. That's what I was getting from that. They didn't feel like it was quite ready.
Plan A, which we
was
assume
Thailand.
Is the Thailand race that fell through.
But
obviously.
Interesting that he says Plan A is still an option for season 12.
It's interesting that Plan B fell through as well. Which
whether or not it fell through.
We all think that Valencia was Plan B.
Well, we don't know what Plan B is. Sanya was Plan B.
Yeah.
Sanya
was Plan B.
Sanya, and obviously he was being very diplomatic.
Or Marrakesh or something like that.
And he was being very diplomatic.
Celeste, which I've said on this show beforehand, we could go back to Punta on a few occasions.
And that
Thank you
Punta
for
del
Alberto
Este.
for confirming that for me.
Punta
'cause
del Este is a
I've heard
racetrack.
that. Like, yeah,
And-
I've heard a punter track being mentioned here, there, and everywhere, and I was told a few seasons ago that it remains an option as a backup track.
Yeah.
But it's just we haven't been there since Series 4. So thank you to Alberto for confirming that for me, because I can look, I've got a reference now.
Yeah. Well, I saw a post the other day that there's still resemblance of the Formula E like infrastructure still there. Like so.
Probably. I mean, like Julius Barr owns Punta del Este, so basically, so.
Yeah, I found that. I found that
You go onto
to be
Google Maps,
really
it's very
interesting.
easy to find it, but
Yeah.
Google Maps is a little bit. The
But-
thing is, it depends on how long ago they.
But I remember Formula E talking about Punta del Este being their home, right? Being that iconic race, basically
was
racing
Monaco.
racing on the beach, right? That's
Yeah.
what they always came out with that line that this could be our track, like, and in Uruguay, and it was a nice location. It's a shame that it has gone away.
Yeah,
But-
the main reason I believe why it was no longer on the calendar is because logistics was
Yeah.
a huge issue. Because the thing is, you'd fly to Montevideo,
Yeah.
which is the closest airport. You'd then get on a hot, sweaty bus for 3 hours to get
Yep.
to Punta del Este. It's a bit like going, right, we're gonna race in Manchester. Let's fly to Heathrow.
Yep.
Like it's and get on a bus.
Yep.
It's not really feasible.
Yes, unfortunately, Vitaly leaving, you did miss it. Yes, he was only here from between 6:30 GMT time till 7 p.m. GMT time. So he has gone, but we're going through the forefront of it. But you can come on !Discord. We can fill you in. You can ask what happened. You can come and talk about who you think is going to be at Kuro Race, which is how we're pronouncing it, because apparently that is the correct pronunciation. From the show that we did. It's a Japanese word.
Actually, that's something that I can talk about. I went to Mahindra launch last week.
Yep.
Yeah, no,
You
and
did?
so I heard from Jack Smith, Motorsport Week, because I saw him there on the show that you did a few weeks ago, that you got like an actual lesson on how to pronounce it. Or
Yeah,
something
well,
like that.
the lesson was Google. We Googled how to pronounce it, and they told us how to pronounce it.
How much I watch of this show outside of doing it is that I heard about it a week later from Jack.
So yeah. Incredible,
So
really.
it's what Kiro
Kiro
Kiro.
race. Kiro. I prefer that than whatever Cairo.
Kiro.
Cairo's that's an Egyptian city, isn't it? But never mind. Maybe another sexy city that maybe Formula E could race in one day. Who knows? But yeah, really interesting though. So 2 races in.
I'd give it a little bit, just
Two. Yeah, maybe
close.
2 races in America.
No.
He also said 2 races in India.
2 races in America.
2 in
Okay.
India, and 2 in China by the Gen 4.
Let's focus on 1 in India to start with.
Yes.
And that's the thing. I think Chennai would be a good option. They've got the Madras circuit, which is a 30.
But then, do you want to go? I don't know. But
outside the
do
city?
you want to go super sexy and go Delhi and Mumbai, or is that just impossible because it's so hectic around there? That's another thing.
Yeah, no, that's the problem.
You know, because you know when you see like the thingamabobs and so forth, and also, no, he doesn't mean double headers. He means 2 races.
2 races.
So.
I understand why they're like China.
Helen's also in chat. Helen, hello. If you'd like to come on and tell us who you think is going to be the Kiro, as I'm pronouncing it, race drivers, because they haven't actually announced them yet, and I know we're assuming Dan is one of them, but if you have any ideas, do feel free to come on. Lou, who isn't.
It is looking very likely that Sergio won't be there.
Yeah, which is I don't know. You're busy, mate. I'm surprised you
I'm
haven't
sad
got.
about that because
Let's talk Kiro race, and then maybe we'll take some calls on it, and who people might think. So if you'd like to come on and speak about who you think the driver. This is the time. We're going to move on to that, and then we'll come back. We'll wrap up. We do have a piece from Jack Smith that I recorded a little bit earlier. Who he mentioned you in a specific thing in a conversation that you've had.
Me?
Yeah, he did actually.
Oh God.
Yeah, he mentioned a name, which does make sense. So
Oh.
if
Yeah,
you,
no,
I'll let you try and see if you remember it, but it's a good talking point.
Is
Five- let-
it about Hero?
Yes,
Is it about who I think is in the second seat?
yes.
I remember that conversation.
Okay, so we can talk about this now because I think we might as well. So, question 1, right? Why have they not announced their drivers yet? 5 days, but they're allowed 4 drivers, right? So this is where I'm thinking your idea isn't far-fetched because they've only announced 1 female driver instead of 2, and they allowed 4 drivers for the test. And
Yeah,
some people got
interestingly, the
2.
person who they've had for the test beforehand, correct me if I'm wrong, have they not used Marta Garcia?
That has gone to Porsche.
Who has gone to Porsche. So
So they bring in Simona Di Silvestro, Porsche driver. So therefore, these rumours of David Beckman being in the seat pretty much look very strong. But then you heard a name that isn't so far-fetched. What was that name?
No, and I'm hoping that we're on the same wavelength now, and that Jack quoted me right. But the thing is, when we met up on the Mahindra day, it was the same day that Porsche announced their lineups in WEC for 2025.
Yes.
And there was one notable name missing, and that man is Andre Lotterer.
I know. Boom.
If they want a Porsche affiliated driver who has Formula E experience, Andre.
And I think the test, and if Andre Lotterer ends up at the test, if the test does go ahead, that is, then surely that's a shootout. Because if David Beckman's quicker than Andre Lotterer, then Andre Lotterer's just lost a bit of space. So for all the experience that Andre Lotterer has and would benefit the team, he could still be signed up as a reserve driver. He could become a Kiro race reserve driver, right? And just help the team build up knowledge that way. Or it's a shootout between Lotterer and Beckman, and those are the 2 drivers that they take and test in testing, right? They announce Dan Ticktum, and then they kind of say, you know, these 2 people are going to be shooting it out.
If they announce Dan Ticktum and don't let him drive the car before Sao Paulo, that'll be...
No, but the thing is, Beckman and Lotterer will share the second car. Right? So Dan Ticktum will keep Ticktum will keep his car, and Lotterer and that will share that car. So when the women's only test is happening, I don't know what the rules are around that. If it is a women's only test, or that's basically when. But maybe Andre Lotterer might be, running around, for example, in that test as the second Kiro race car, and so
Give
forth.
it Weber.
So
Give it Weber.
But that could be an option, and if that's an option that you're hearing through the grapevine, that could something that they're assessing, it makes sense. But yeah, we had, and Fiercely Electric. Helen says it in chat. And again, if you're free to come on, I'd love to hear your thoughts, but it's okay if you don't want to. It is underwhelming. Like, for me, Sergio Sette Camara is a top driver, right? Top driver. He did amazing things, got into the ERT, got into the duels, and you're throwing it out for David Beckman, and you don't know what you're going to get with David Beckman. And if Dan Ticktum outperforms him, then it was the wrong choice. Yes, it's a Porsche move, but money doesn't always speak. Go on.
If Sette Camera loses out to Beckman, I will think that is not a step up. If I'm brutally
But we
honest.
can't. Okay, let's not be harsh to Beckman.
If it's Andre, I understand it because that is experience of fighting in top level teams. Because it's not just Porsche, it's not just Andretti. He was teammates to the only two-time champion, in Jean-Eric Vergne, when Diaz Techeetah were at their prime. It makes sense to sign someone like Andre to help sort of develop the Kiro team. with someone like David Beckman, who has he did 2 races for Andretti in Jakarta when Lottery went off to do Le Mans, and admittedly, you expect a rookie to, especially one thrown into the deep end, to not really like perform a huge amount, but yeah, there's nothing that I've seen in his career that I think that's a
Yeah.
it's
He was
that,
he was
that's
a
step
highly
up,
he
really.
was a highly rated young driver. Let's get Lewin, because Lewin's
Was he?
I remember his name being mentioned a lot when he was in junior formula.
It sounded like David Beckham.
Maybe. But let's get Lewin. I'll drag Lewin, because he's a Kiro race fan. Lou, hello. You're on the FE bar. I know you're currently muted, and we're bringing you in because we know you're a Kiro race fan, and we'd like to hear your thoughts on one, why you think they haven't announced anyone, and then on Pico's opinion that Andre Lotterer could be in for that seat.
Yeah, I was really puzzled why it took so long for something to be announced. No, true, but there's a certain journalist that has put it in multiple articles at this point, and so the expectancy is there now, and also the fact that it was reported that he was already testing shakedown the car. So so yeah, hopefully that's the case. So yeah, and well, with Porsche it's pretty clear that that's what they're now waiting for, that they want a Porsche driver in it, and they want to test out Beckman. So that seems a reasonable explanation to why it's taking so long. Was a bit worried before that they were trying to sell out the seat or something for financial points.
Even though they've the thing that surprised me here, and you're right on what you're saying with the financial thing, is that they've taken over the team, but they don't feel like they have any money in its sense to improve it. It's basically the Forest Road Group or company have taken over this team just to keep it afloat, effectively. If that's what it feels like at the moment, because they're obviously using Porsche powertrains. So basically, they've kept Dan, because Dan basically pioneered the whole thing. But then we're trying to get a reserve Porsche driver, and we're using old Porsche powertrains. We're letting Porsche basically. We've got, I'm sure, Simona Di Silvestro's driving, so that's a Porsche reserve driver. So it feels like Porsche have got their hand a lot in this team now. Either they're funding it to help keep it going as part of the deal that they've come up with, or effectively this team's just being kept afloat, and it may stay a backmarker team for quite some time, and this could be now the new backmarker team of Formula E. I don't know what you think on that.
Already are.
Yeah,
basically.
well, true, but that it cements its place, though. It's not going to improve.
Yeah, that's true, and with how close the field is with old Porsche, it's questionable if that's how successful that will be. I have no idea about the finances of Kiro, to be honest. Of the group behind it, so
no,
I cannot say.
It's just from the outside is what we're feeling.
Yeah, I find it really difficult to judge, because maybe they just taken over it, and maybe the Porsche way is now a way to secure a legal next drivetrain, while I can assume the thing they were making on their own was probably going to be way worse than what Porsche can offer them. So
if they got Porsche's this season powertrain, then we'd be in business. Dan Tickton might have a really strong car, but the fact that it's last season's is just a little bit.
I'm still very puzzled by how that's going to work with all the rule changes and the four-wheel drive that we now have, and it's going to be technically last year's spec, but it cannot fully be. So it has to be a
Yeah, it's a
hybrid
good-
in that, and they need
yes.
to test that. And
Good point, well made.
then it's different from the other two Porsche teams. Is that going to make problems with the software or not? Or there's so many things that spin around in that.
So pre-season testing for them is massive, right? And there'd be a team
Yeah.
to watch, right? And
Yeah.
find out.
Pre-season testing. I will not be surprised if Kiro are top 5 in pre-season testing.
So
Like,
you're
Mm.
so you're
No, for
Go
me, starts well, dissipates. That's how this season's going to go for Kiro. They will start well, and then by the end of the season, if they can keep up with the back of the field, good on them.
fair enough.
I think that would be the good scenario, to be honest. Because I'm really curious how much preparation they have to put it together at the beginning of the season. If it's not all too short notice, or that they're actually having a decent preparation. Because I think Dan now knows if he's driving, because he seems to be at least away from streaming and stuff like that. So hopefully that means that it's going into pre-season testing mode from that point. But yeah, do they have like the simulator up running? How good is their preparation on this change? That's also
It'd be a
key to.
Great questions to ask. 100%, 100% agreed. In terms of, lastly, I would say, are you happy with David Beckman? Are you a bit upset for Sergio Sette Camera? Who would you have in the car if it was between Andre and David Beckman? Like, your thoughts on that?
I would put Sergio in the car.
Yeah.
David Beckman, to be honest, everything what he's done before hasn't really made an impression on me. So I don't think it reckons, or how do you say that in English, that you deserve a place in Formula E, actually, with the track record, in a way. So yeah, I would put Sergio in. He's done decently last 2 years. Last year was very good, actually. Year before was a bit more difficult. I would say keep them both. They know the team, they know everyone.
Yep.
I can understand Lotterer for the experience aspect, but I also want he's also fairly old at this point.
Yep.
So.
And you
yeah,
feel like
you
feel like that's only like a 1-year deal, don't you? If it's
hopefully, to be honest, that they then move to newer people. So,
yep.
And hopefully it will be maybe option to have like a new powertrain, of course, for the next year.
Yeah.
After this year.
Yep. We'll have to see what happens. But yeah, it's an interesting story. Hopefully, one Pico, maybe if testing does go ahead, that can maybe try and dig into.
Yeah, I'll be honest. That's something that I would quite like to do, and so obviously we'll have a chat about testing once we're off air. But yeah, we'll sort of that's something that I'd quite like to sort of find out about as well. So yeah,
Lou, thank you very much for coming on. Is there anything that I know we brought you in? Is there anything that you'd like to say? Because obviously we brought you in and asked you the questions as the Kiro race fan representative of the group. Is there anything that you would like to add that you wanted to say?
A good interview with Alberto, first off.
Thank you.
And second off, I'm hopeful for the London E3 with his words.
Yeah, I saw you put that in chat, and I think it might be something that we go back to Jeff with in a couple of weeks' time. But it was definitely a question that could have been asked by someone was London, and I was tempted to put it in as part of that Cape Town and Hyderabad, but I decided against it because I thought it was just maybe a bit too much in one. And I thought, and we've had a lot of that sort of information. I think we got some good information out of that Cape Town is definitely still in contention, and that they want 2 more races in India. And I know he said, because I watched in preparation for the interview, I watched him basically say India is a massive market for Formula E. So it's good to get some backup and some bit more meat added to that. let's say. But yeah, no, thank you so much. But that's what we do. We try and bring the members of the Formula E people closer to you, because back in the day, me and Pico would have done these interviews all by ourselves on a Zoom call and asked all the questions and then wrote a news story, and you would have read the news story. So it's much better. It's much nicer to get you guys a bit more involved in that process.
Thanks for doing that.
No worries.
Cheers, Lucy.
Lou,
We'll see you
thank you so much for coming on.
A good stream. Yep.
Thank you.
Right, so Jack, one thing that has come on one thing that I've just noticed in the Discord.
Oh, I haven't seen the Discord. I can't see the Discord.
While we've been doing this, so Will or Trend Espresso, easy for me to say.
Will,
how far am I in this?
Will.
Right. Has made a fantastic point. Question for Jack Squared, so us two, obviously.
Okay.
If you could devise the schedule and its spacing, what would you do? 2 months with no racing is surely a mistake.
That's a great question. You could have come on the
That is
show. We could have dragged it. We could have dragged. Why did we drag him in?
Will was on.
He's on the way. He's in the waiting room though.
I'll drag him in. I'll drag him in because obviously this is a question that
right, Will.
This is a fantastic question that you've put to us.
And I know he's muted. I don't know where he is, so I'll keep talking just in case.
Yeah. Because... he is here. He cannot unmute. So
he cannot unmute. Oh right.
So
okay.
You'll listen. You'll listen to us in live time. But,
what was the question? I've forgotten.
Yeah. If you could devise a schedule and its spacing, what would you do?
I'd aim for December, January, February. If they want to do 2 races in December, 2 races January, 2 races in February. So you got 6 races, and then from March, April, May, June, July, either 1 a month or 1 every 3 weeks, something like that. Because that's the non-critical part of the calendar. So if that's the non-critical part of the calendar, 1 every 3 weeks, avoiding an F1 race best as you can. You might not be able to do that with Monaco because you have to put Monaco where Monaco is, and that might collide with an F1 race. But really push for that. And it's a great question to ask. The problem is and getting people in. There's so many questions that you could ask Alberto, and that is one question that would have been amazing for Alberto.
Yeah.
Would have been about the calendar spacing.
And he did talk to us. What would we do?
Yeah, I know, and I've given you my answer. I'd say 2 a month up until before F1 starts, and then 1 every 3 weeks, trying to avoid F1 weekends.
Right, so you would have just seen me on stream, just like me on my phone, just scrolling down.
Because you're looking at the calendar.
No, because I have thought about this.
Oh, and you've written it down and you've done it.
I've written it down.
You've already done it.
And so it's so yeah, like I won't show it to you in full, but yeah, basically, I change it to a 2-day format.
Was that the question?
So
that wasn't the question.
Race weekend. No, it was. Yes, it was.
About changing the format to 2 days. It was about spacing.
Yes. If you could devise the schedule and its spacing, what would you do? This is this is devising the schedule.
All right then. Okay.
And now I'm about to do that. So, the format completely changes. So, there are now 2 races on a Sunday and a reverse grid sprint on a Saturday.
Oh, I'm already lost.
Yeah. Okay. So we go FP1, FP2, then the reverse grid sprint, then into qualifying, and then on Sunday you got FP3, and then race 1, and then race 2. And so you're getting basically two and a half races on a weekend. Sprint about 40 minutes, but the race is 150 kilometers long. So it should last about an hour and a quarter, which is what I think.
But then he said,
will
"Do we
say
need
they
that?
want to-
Do we need
I
that?"
think we do, because the races too long have been so long have been too short. But the thing is, this also sort of sorts out the calendar a little bit, so we don't need to. So there's no double headers, there's no single headers. It's everything stays the same from each race. Each race, and we do it across 14 races over the course of like October through to June.
October.
Yeah, that's what it used to be.
Back in season 1
Bring it
and
back.
2.
Yeah,
Bring it back. Shing it back.
Bring it back.
Bring it back. Bring it back
So
to me.
yeah, that is my idea. It's completely ludicrous, but I think what it does
That's as
is,
ludicrous as my Daniel Ricciardo theory.
Yes, but this is more plausible. And so basically, you get two proper races, but then if you're at the back of the championship, you do get your chance to shine and show your worth in the reverse grid sprint, which is before qualifying, so it's not based on qualifying, it's based on reverse championship.
Okay.
So like you can't sabotage qualifying to make it to make you good in the reverse sprint.
You can tell.
And
You
yes,
can tell
this
there's
is-
nothing going on in Formula E, isn't there? You can tell there's absolutely. Apart from Valencia, we've covered that. We've covered Curo. There's absolutely nothing going on in Formula
But
E.
do that 12 weekends a year. Yeah.
And
Fairs.
But they want to do 24 races. So
24 races is still 12 weekends a year.
across 18 locations. So 18 locations, 24 races.
In the
That's
nicest
what
way possible.
That's what they want to do. That's what they want to do for Gen 4. That's what Alberto said.
But let's be real, that's not happening.
How do you know?
We have 10 locations this year. We have not had 10 locations is the same locations as Series 1, Season 2, Season 3. It's like the most we've ever had is like 12 or 13.
Yeah.
I can't see
Us jumping to 18.
realistically jumping to 18 for
But we've got 2 years.
For
2 years.
Season 13. Yeah.
And you can add a couple more, so that if they can add a couple
the thing
more.
is, this one gives you 24 races and then 12 sprints as well. Why not? Like,
I don't know.
let's have some fun.
Lou says we need 32. Adrian, I would put a quali race on Saturday and a final race on Sunday. Very interesting.
Yeah, that's similar.
And welcome,
I'm
Adrian.
for that.
They've not heard. If you haven't, exclamation mark Discord. Get in the Discord if you're not already in the Discord.
Right.
Exclamation
Just-
and subscribe, like. Good to see some new faces.
Right, Ed. Ed's just put. Oh, you can watch qualifying. No, you can watch qualifying and you watch the reverse grid sprint. That is what you get, and the reverse grid sprint is longer than the Misano races of this year.
I suppose. Honestly, I prefer 2 day. I prefer the double header idea. I think I like the double header. I like the fact there's 2 races. It's all a bit boom, 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 boom.
It makes qualifying more dependent though, because you're qualifying on Saturday for both races on Sunday.
Oh yeah, but you said 2 races on Sunday, which I forgot about. But,
Yes, yeah,
but
2 races on Sunday
because one's reverse grid. But I don't know.
That's my idea. Anyways, great question. Well, fantastic. Should we get some other people on so we stop rambling?
Yeah, let's get Nikki. Was the last person I think that wanted to come back on and say something. So we'll speak to Nikki and then we'll
let's get Nikki.
We'll wrap up the show. We do have something from Jack Smith, and I might play that to end the show.
Okay, sweet, and then we can all disappear. Right, lovely. But before that, Nikki, hello, welcome back.
Nikki,
football's on.
Yeah, the football's
Hiya,
on.
mate.
Yeah, I was at Brentford yesterday. It was terrible.
Who's playing?
Everybody. Manchester City, Spurs, 8:15.
Man United.
It's Carabao Cup, isn't it?
Carabao Cup.
Oh,
Carabao Cup, yeah.
I don't care about the Carabao Cup because Klopp knocked us out in round 2. Yeah.
I was at Brentford yesterday, and that was terrible.
Who
Anyway,
that bit of a sore subject?
Yeah.
I've got a few, 2 little questions to ask you fellas,
Go on.
and I want an opinion on.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Right. Number 1 is, right? You know this new Formula E team,
Kiro.
Giro.
yeah,
Yep.
that have got Dan Tickton but no other driver. So are they running the team with just one driver? That's the first question.
No.
There will be 2 cars.
There will be 2 cars. Yeah.
And so it will be Dan Ticktum and TBC at the moment. We believe
Do
it
we-
will be. We believe it will be David Beckman, but
Andre Lotterer
All right,
outside
okay.
chance.
I've thrown Andre Lotter out there, as have a few other people. So yeah, we'll see. But
Yeah, and
we believe that second seat will be a Porsche affiliated driver.
Yeah, so Sergio said they
well,
can
we'll
no
eventually
longer
go
be
to
there.
Porsche, basically.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Yeah, I know.
So basically, that seat is reserved for Antonio Felix da Costa next year.
Pretty much. But yes.
What, the Dan Tickton seat or the Porsche
Antonio.
seat?
The Porsche seat.
Sorry,
Sorry,
fellas.
Antonio.
Yeah.
I
What was your
love you,
second point?
really.
Because we did go through that.
My opinion is, right, I've seen like little bit of video with the McLaren, right? And I've got a theory that it might be black and chrome. What are your thoughts on it?
I've only seen that. The
Because
little
I've just seen a
snippet.
bit of black.
When's it being launched? When's it being launched?
Mhm.
Do we know when it's being launched?
It hasn't been
Tomorrow
launched
at 10
yet,
o'clock.
but they did a sneaky
Oh, lovely.
Yeah,
sneaky
but it looked
preview.
more black to me.
I don't know, to be honest with you.
Oh, I saw inside the
It might be more IndyCar lookish then,
McLaren FE.
because the IndyCar was a bit more black, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it true as well that because I've also seen this online and I want
Hang on.
is
Watching it
Mr.
now.
O'Ward going to the Mexico Grand Formula E?
Yes,
Because
he
I'd
is.
heard that
He
what was
is.
happening.
He is driving an IndyCar.
Wow, what
At
at the race?
Yeah, so as a demo event, he's driving the IndyCar at the Formula E.
Wow,
Very nice.
So Pato O'Ward will be at the Mexican E Prix.
Cool.
So yeah.
Can I not go?
Was that everything, Nikki?
Yeah, yeah, and also, are you still doing a Formula E bar after testing as well?
If testing happens, if it happens,
If it happens,
if
right?
it
Okay,
happens,
fellas.
but it won't be long shows at this precise moment.
If it doesn't, it will just be a live stream of me crying my eyes out as I look at my bank account and think, what the hell went wrong?
Oh, well, travel insurance.
Yeah,
I
of course
told you.
you're supposed to be going out, aren't you, mate?
Travel insurance.
Yep, can't wait.
Get it on
That's
the
why
travel
travel insurance comes in, my friend.
Yeah, I know. I've been looking at that tonight.
Yes. The travel
Oh, I
insurance.
forgot you were going out there, mate. I do apologise.
Yeah, no, it's all good. It's all good.
But
yeah,
all right.
hopefully it will go ahead. But yeah,
for
we'll
me,
see.
very interesting.
Hopefully.
Very interesting that he said that that they are looking to do testing somewhere else, which is but when, who knows? But somewhere else, which I think is the big news story
Barcelona?
for today.
Barcelona, maybe?
From what I've heard, they're sort of having the same conditions right now, so we'll see. The thing is, they can't really delay it because Moto GP are hosting their season finale in 2 and a bit weeks. That is 2 weeks this weekend. So.
Oh yeah, of course they are in Valencia.
Yeah. So they can't really move some of the dates. They might be able to push it by a day, which I'd do if I were Formula E, see if we can get it running Wednesday to Friday, but that is my fantasy theory.
Can't just cut it down like they did last year after the fire.
That is my fancy theory because I want to go to Valencia and see some cars.
Yes, but
oh, Jack, I feel so sorry for you, buddy.
But never mind.
It's all right. It's all right. Don't worry.
Never mind. Right, Nikki, thank you so much for coming back on.
No problem. Speak to you later, fellas.
See you later.
Bye.
Natalie just wants to come in very quickly. I'm just gonna
Natalie.
drag her in. Nat, you're back.
Hello.
What would you like to discuss in our last little section? Because I'm gonna.
Jack Smith's gonna take us out.
Yep.
Nice.
He's
Basically.
standing there with a gun.
Yeah.
Basically, if testing doesn't happen at Valencia, would they move it to another circuit? Because I missed the first 15 minutes of Alberto's interview.
He said that it will be rearranged. Where to? I don't know. But he said it will be they will find another location. They will look for another location for preseason testing, which shocks me. But that's what he said. Whether it happens or not is a different factor. But unless I don't know where it could be. It could be in England. It could be in Donington. Like all of a sudden,
I really hope it is.
We end up in Donington next week or something like that.
The transport's probably already on the continent.
There probably is, but then they have to
stop at like Magny-Cours or something.
Yeah, maybe. But then everything needs to be, phone calls need to be made. But how quickly you can turn around and just phone up a racetrack and say, hey, can we just come? And they're like, yeah. But then what are most racetracks doing at this point of year? Nothing. So
yeah.
So it might be.
Silverstone have got the Walter Hayes Trophy this weekend. If you want to come down and I won't be there. I'll be on a plane to do nothing.
But anyway,
but you can go to Silverstone and watch the Walter Hayes Trophy.
So Silverstone's busy, so it's not a Silverstone.
Yeah, no, not a Silverstone.
No.
But there's plenty of tracks around there that are busy. So that's I think the biggest thing that came out of that interview for me was there was lots of big things that came out for me that what he said. But
it was an excellent half hour, by the way, lads. So I take my metaphorical hat off to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
But again, we can't do it without you guys. You guys make the show. There is no FE bar. Well, it would be. It'd just be you watching us interview Alberto Longo, but it's much more fun getting you guys involved.
Yeah.
One more question before I go.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think the McLaren livery is going to look like this year?
Your mum just said that.
Yeah, your mum just said that.
Your mum just said that.
To be fair,
I don't know.
I hadn't seen it. I hadn't seen this clip that had surfaced. So I see where your mum's coming from about with the chrome. I think it looks black, but there might be a chrome strip around the outside, and then it may be papaya from.
I think
yeah,
they're going to stick with what they had last year, but modify it a little bit.
Potentially,
if that makes sense.
That would make sense. That would make sense to me. But yeah, I mean, we find out in 14 hours' time. So
perfect. There we go. Right, Natalie, thank you so much.
Right. See you later, lads.
See you later.
See you later.
Bye.
Right, and that is pretty much it for the FE bar. If testing does occur, there will be some shorter FE bars. I'm not going to say they're going to be 2 hours long because they probably won't be 2 hours long. And it might just be me on my Todd here because depending on who goes and who's available.
It'll be me crying my eyes out from the Airbnb.
Yeah, but if that means you're in Valencia, so it wouldn't be you. So it might be just me sitting here. So I need a lot of you, but then we'll just be covering.
I think I will be in Valencia next week.
We've got you just for the holiday. You'd be a proper news reporter, like disaster recovery, sending snaps to BBC News.
This time next week, I'm either going to have a fantastic week at testing, or I'm going to be an on-site reporter for
BBC News,
on-site
BBC Oxfordshire,
for BBC Radio Oxford.
Yep.
I can't wait.
But loads of people sent the same tracks here: Portimao, Mallorca, Aragon. Which
Spain's not exactly short of circuits.
No, but, it's just I don't know. Everyone's just got to divert, isn't it? Everyone's going to fly to Valencia because that's where the original flight was, and then try and get to Aragon or try and get to wherever they need to go.
Actually, I will tell you, 2 years ago when I did testing, they did it the week before Christmas, and it snowed on the day that I was supposed to fly out, and it was I think it was like a midday flight, and I woke up to find out that my flight had been cancelled. And so I immediately got on the phone to EasyJet to sort me out, and they couldn't get me to mainland Spain, so they sorted me to they sorted me to Lanzarote. And so I went to Lanzarote, and then thankfully the second flight was delayed. But I had to do that out of my own pocket because honestly, I didn't care.
I can't remember that story.
I missed the first day of testing.
Maybe I did. Maybe I do remember this story.
Yeah,
it was. Did it snow in the UK or was it snowing?
It was snowing in the UK, which is why I couldn't take off from
wherever. Just a final reminder, there's a couple of people in there. If there's anyone who's in here, hit the subscribe button, exclamation mark Discord, come and join us. And it's a great community, well over 120 people now in this Discord. It's growing and growing and growing and growing and growing. Come be part of it. Tons of Formula E fans, and we want to get it to as many people as possible. And if you're enjoying the show, then that's the most important thing, and that's what we want, is you want us to, and we're trying to bring Formula E as close to the fans as we possibly can. So if you haven't hit the subscribe button, because we are trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, it's a big goal for us. We are 140 subscribers away from that. So if everyone who watched just hit the subscribe button, then we'd be happy days from people who watched it afterwards, but not everyone does. So, but it's a massive goal. If we can get to 1,000, so as I always say, tell your mum, your nan, your granddad, your brother, your aunt, your cat to subscribe. Evening, Mr. Nick Golding. Interview went very well. I'll give you a good debrief later. But we're gonna round out with our good old friend Jack Smith. So once that interview finishes, the stream will end. So this is us saying goodbye now, because we did say 8:00, and
I've got dinner to eat. So,
thank you so much for coming on and being part of the Alberto Longo interview. He really enjoyed it, and as I said, it won't work without you guys. So the fact that you guys came on, asking some great questions, is
if you want me to bring in Nick, I will.
He's packing. He's live packing. That's what he's doing. Live.
That
packing.
one's definitely going to be needed in Valencia right now.
Unbelievable. But thank you so much for watching. Please remember to hit that like and subscribe button, and we will hopefully be back in testing next week, but it may be delayed. It may be at a new location. Who knows? But only place to find out is at Formula E Zone, although Mr. Nick Golding may say differ, but we got to hype up our own stuff. Right now, we'll end you with a little clip from Jack Smith and myself that we filmed a little bit earlier. Good night. And I am now joined by Jack Smith from Motorsport Week. Hello, Jack. How are you?
I'm all right, Jack. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. A big story today. Obviously, a sad story with what's going on in Valencia, and the death toll's been rising at the moment. As we speak, it's up to over 70, which is quite scary to think about, that we're going there potentially in 5 days. So very sad situation. But in terms of pre-season testing, Formula E have obviously released a statement that they're going to update us in due course. Have you got anything to add from that? Any things that what you think is going to happen? Do you think we'll be going there? Because poor you and loads of other people got flights booked, things ready, accommodation ready, and we might not even be there. Which is, I suppose, the least of our worries because of what's going on. But
yeah,
it's like frustrating in our own sense.
Yeah. Obviously, the first thing is we have to think about is all the people that have been affected. And obviously, as you say, the death toll's going up and up and up, and that's incredibly sad. And that should be at the forefront of everything we think about. It just so happens that the specific area that is affected is the one that is closest to the circuit, which of course is going to potentially affect testing and potentially affect the MotoGP finale that's coming up after that. With no real word yet on what's going on exactly. As you say, they put the statement out. I suspect they're going to have to make a decision in the next couple of days, because even though it's the middle of the week and it starts on Monday, I think they're going to have to make a decision very, very soon, because they're going to have to put measures in place if they do, because the road that's going into the circuit is
the main one is no longer, doesn't exist.
Beyond. No, it's battered beyond recognition. So to get in is going to be tricky. But
teams are beginning to travel, right? So
teams
are beginning to travel. So that's we might be traveling a day before, but the teams won't be traveling a day before. They probably be on their way within today or tomorrow, or potentially by Friday. They would be making their way down to the track, so they need to know before they depart effectively.
Yeah, the people that are going to be arriving latest, I suspect, are going to be the drivers that are competing in WEC. Otherwise, everyone is probably, or would have at least, been in place. So, yeah, and as we know, that Formula E is transitioning its whole hub to that location, and obviously that's partly down to the fact that there's a good freight area for everything to go through. So, those measures are in place, and yeah, they have to think about that, not just the rest of us that are going. And that's the case. I do suspect that it probably won't go ahead. That's my gut feeling. And if it doesn't, the question is, what do they do? Because we are now, correct me if I'm wrong, we're about 5 weeks away from the opening round, which means we are not really going to have a lot of time to think of a reschedule or a new location for the testing. Which means I would suggest that probably the most likely option is that we'll probably have maybe a slight extension of the Brazil weekend. Maybe they'll run the cars on Thursday, and maybe do additional running on the Friday more than they already would do.
But that could be a logistical challenge in itself, because obviously you've got to close the roads, and if you're closing the roads for more than and also Thursday, Fridays would be, let's consider, working days. I don't know the massive area around Brazil and how close it is to, but if you close a road, you're going to cause backlog. So by doing that could be an issue in itself, and probably I would say something Formula E doesn't want to do.
Yes, I would agree. There's no sort of right or wrong answer or solution to this, because as we touched on in the show last time when we talked about the 2 month gap, it's very hard to find contingencies when you are predominantly a street circuit championship. Obviously, in this occasion, the permanent circuit facility that is being used is the one that's being affected because of the area and the disaster that's occurred. So it's a very, very tricky situation in which there's no outcome that benefits anybody. So we'll just have to wait and see. As I say, I think my gut is saying that it probably won't go ahead. It's whether they can arrange something further down the line. I would say that perhaps the most logical solution, if at all possible, is they go to Valencia, they arrive, they up sticks everything and go to Calafat, which is slightly different part of Spain, but it's not a million miles away.
Okay.
It's a Formula E test circuit for a lot of teams. A lot of teams go there. A lot of teams have laid rubber down on there all summer. So there is a possibility for that one, but again, it's still something that would be very much up in the air. I guess once we find out what the announcement is going to be, whenever that comes, we or they can start planning what comes next.
Yeah, I do think it's unlikely. As much as, I want you guys to go and so forth, and content has been planned and everything's been planned, and I know because you've been planning stuff, I've been planning stuff for Formula E Zone, and you've got all these things in place, and they could easily just not happen now. But I think what could happen, it's an idea, but obviously we've got the 2 month break in where Thailand would have been. You could do an in-season test.
Yes.
Potentially at that period. Hopefully by then Valencia, everything would have been repaired, and they could go to Valencia in that period. You could make it a weekend, for example, and invite fans to come down Friday, Saturday, Sunday, for example. So fans get an opportunity to go and see the cars. You can do the test races. Might mean that attack charge doesn't come in until after that Valencia test, because if you can't test it in Valencia, if it doesn't go ahead, then I don't know if you can bring it to Sao Paulo and go ahead with it. But that might be something to bring, and in Formula E basically, because I know when we were in Valencia last season, they did the attack charge, and then half of them they just pitted and retired the car, and basically like 4 cars finished technically, just for their own run programs. But you could tell the teams, don't do that. We'll have the fans here to sort of watch this fake race, but we are testing the attack charge. They get to see the attack charge live, and then you can create content around there. You can ask the fans what they thought of it and so forth there, and they get a bit of live ad hoc feedback. Could be a potential option, because as much as I'd love them to say, right, let's just go to Donington, I don't think that's going to happen, and I think we are at a potential where we're going to go into Brazil with no pre-season testing.
Yeah, I very much suspect that is what's going to happen. And you do raise a good point that there could be an in-season test. I think that would be a great idea, because you're going to have 3 race weekends, if I've got that right, 3 race weekends before the gap. And then we're looking at, a point where a lot of teams would be doing a lot of development work anyway. So why not take yourselves back to Valencia at a point where you're not probably going to have as many weather-based scenarios that might occur. So again, I think that is a possible thing, and you could always base it around, as you say, testing more things out like attack charge, because attack charge is now pretty much dormant again.
Yep.
If this test doesn't go ahead, it's going to be pretty much dormant again, let's face it. So again, if you do a test in the season, you could bring it in a bit later on. And there's also, of course, scope, if you do it in Valencia, for using it as a way to, make a fundraiser out of it for all the stuff that's been going on over the last couple of days. I think that would be something that would be worth thinking about.
Yeah, 100%. I think Formula E should do something like that. I do think that's a good point, well made. Let's move on, because I want to talk about Kiro race, as we said correctly in our last show. We're 5 days out from this test, technically, whether it happens or not, but they still haven't technically announced both of their drivers. Yes, we are assuming Dan Ticktum is the one that is going to be announced, because he brought the Forest Road group in to take over the team, so they wouldn't get rid of him. But there is obviously talk, and this kind of makes sense, Jack, with them using old Porsche powertrains. That then a Porsche, we've already seen Simona Di Silvestro. It's hilarious that Simona Di Silvestro has been announced before their actual drivers. But Simona Di Silvestro, because it caught me off guard that I thought, hold on, is she the actual driver? Because they hadn't actually announced anything. But obviously she's a Porsche driver herself, and she's going to be doing the women's only test. So it kind of makes sense that if they are going to go to David Beckman, that David Beckman could be partnering Dan Ticktum, and poor Sergio Sette-Camera, through no fault of his own, I think he's had a brilliant Formula E year, might find himself on the sidelines for a year.
Yeah, I think obviously, no matter what anyone in Stuttgart might say, I think that this is Porsche's influence being wielded slightly, because they obviously are using Porsche powertrains. We're seeing, of course, that the other customer team of Porsche have got Nico Muller, who's all of a sudden a Porsche Works driver as soon as he becomes an Andretti driver. So you can see the David Beckman thing is a link that makes perfect sense. There are other drivers in the frame that has been widely reported. One name that hasn't been reported, but a name that I have heard bandied around, and it was a name that was actually originally bandied around last week by Mr. Pickering when I saw him, which I have now found out is a distinct possibility, although I think it's unlikely, and I think they probably will go for David Beckman. But the name that I'm referring to is Andre Lotterer.
Wow.
Wow. I mean, because of course you've got the fact that he's just been released, or he's going to be released, or he's leaving Porsche Penske in WEC at the end of the season, but he does have strong ties to Porsche still.
Yes.
We know he was an Andretti driver up until the end of season 9. He still had some links to Porsche in season 10. Obviously, did a lot of TV work on Formula E, but it was
a smashing job with it, I must admit.
He did indeed, actually. Yes. So it would be our loss if it was the case. But I also know that I think Andre spent most of his spare time on every weekend he was covering Formula E on television. He spent most of his spare time in the Porsche garage. So I don't think there's going to be much ill feeling in terms of the leaving the WEC team. So I think it's an option for them. And that's certainly what I've heard since Pico actually mentioned it. It's now been something that's been brought to my attention, but I still think Beckman's going to be the obvious choice. He's got Formula E experience. He obviously is the Porsche reserve driver, and he's of a slightly less mature age than Andre Lotterer. I'll try and put that as politely as possible. So I think that he's probably the likely option, as we all kind of know.
Yeah, but yeah, very interested they do pick Andre Lotterer, because it does, for me, if I'm David Beckman, it raises massive questions on what am I doing here if I'm not going to be picked. But a quick word on Sergio Sette Camara, because a bit like Robin Freins, I suppose, in season 4, when BMW took over and he was an Audi driver and he lost his seat with that Andretti team at the time, but then obviously found his way back in thanks to Andretti to becoming a customer team of Envision. Sette Camara's kind of found himself in a similar boat. You know, Porsche have come in and he's not associated with them, and they want a driver associated, and through no fault of his own, he's been brilliant since he's been in that car, and he's lost the seat, and he might be out for a year, but a very good option if someone doesn't perform for season 12.
Oh yeah, I don't think there's any doubting that Sergio is a very, very competent driver, and I think that, you know, I've spoken to Formula E fans and other people who have not rated him as highly as I think you or I have. I think that the point I would make is it's very, very hard to know how good a driver is, particularly when they were driving an ERT.
Well, if you're making it into the Jules, I think you're doing a good job.
Exactly. So if you can do that, then that's not a bad sort of result turnover. Let's put it that way. So I think he's unfortunate. I think he's unfortunate in the sense that he's not two things that parties involved in that team want. He's not an American, which is what I think Forest Road want, and they want that long term. But of course, he's also not connected to Porsche, so he's losing out in two different ways, and that's unfortunate. But as we know, at any level, no matter what it is, that's motor racing. I mean, we see it in Formula One. So, you know, if you're going to be, if you're of a certain background and of certain affiliation to some teams or not, as the case may be, then you're going to find yourself out on your ear.
Indeed. Right, Jack, that's all we have time for, I'm afraid. So thank you so much for coming on. And
that's all right.
Fingers crossed, maybe we get to Valencia. If not, have a good time in Brazil.
Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you soon.
And I am now...